up. It surprises me every year, no matter how much I sit there and try to predict it.
You're like, does that mean go? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Was that our cannon? Was that a different cannon?
Just start running, everybody will follow you.
Exactly.
1 year.
Welcome in for the second half of my 2019 Desert 100 video series. In the first half we had my son James racing in the junior event, and here we are with myself and a bunch of my friends from Saskatoon racing in the 100-mile event. I won't spoil the whole storyline for the video, but it didn't go as well as James's. A great time was had and nobody was hurt all that bad, but it really didn't finish as well as my previous years. But we'll start with the stats. This year there's approximately 900 riders in the 100-mile class. It's great. It's the 49th running of this event, and it keeps growing by about 100 every year. The first time I did it, it was approximately 600 people, and this year is roughly 900 people, so it's great to see it keep growing. It just gets more and more chaotic out there, but it's just a lot of fun to watch and be a part of. The conditions for the weekend were unusual again. They keep telling me that this is the Desert 100, but the last 3 times I've done this event, it's either been in deep water and soaked terrain or in the rain and the cold, so I'm yet to be convinced that it is a desert, with the exception of all of the sand and rocks everywhere. But it does make for a lot of fun riding. The terrain gets a lot more difficult to ride in, although this year it was slippery at the beginning, but it actually provided a lot of traction to some of the areas. As long as you weren't in the rocky areas, the sand firmed up real nice with the water in it, so it wasn't easy to ride, but it wasn't as difficult as some of the other years. Probably a fairly decent representation of what the course is supposed to be like. It's hard when you're preparing for these events to get yourself into a good mental place where you're prepared. It is a difficult race, and one that you really need to be focused on. There's a lot of opportunity to get hurt if you're slipping or not feeling kind of up to pace. This year was a little bit more difficult, and having myself and my son racing on the same weekend, having 2 bikes to manage and 2 races to manage was it was difficult to get myself into the right mindset. But I found that shortly after the start, probably 10 minutes in, that I found a couple of good hill climbs and got free of some of the group that I was in, that it all came into focus and things started to go pretty well for probably about the first hour and a half, and then that's where things kind of came off the rails. Around the 22 mile mark, I couldn't find the exact location, but somewhere between 21 and 22 miles, I discovered that I had a completely blown out front tire. I had a pretty big gash in it, or a pretty big hole in it, and it wasn't holding air at all, and it really wasn't repairable the way it was. The course layout being the way it is, with 2 50-mile loops, had some tough decisions to make. So there's ways you could get out, there's checkpoints you can go in and back to the start gate. But as I kept rolling, you'll see some video coming up here, some discussions I have with some of the track officials, and some other adventures that were had in the course of that. I did decide to push through to the 50-mile mark, have a tubeless system in there, and I was able to manage, although with great difficulty, to continue on. It's surprisingly difficult to ride a dirt bike with your front tire flat, particularly when there's rocks everywhere. The sand actually wasn't all that bad. You could feel a lot of the impact, but the rocks, my neck ended up having a lot of pain in it just from having the handlebars ripped out of my hands or yanked real hard on. I can't say that I've ever really had a flat in a race. I'm usually been pretty fortunate that way, and I'm pretty picky about the tires that I run and the condition that they're in at the beginning of the race. I don't like to be not finishing anything that I get into, so it's a bit of a new experience that way, but it was really eye-opening as to the importance of making sure that you can avoid that. And I'm not sure how yet I'm going to approach next year's event with better preparation. Sometimes it's just bad luck. And I think in this case it was. I possibly had my tire pressures a little bit too low. I was running about 6 or 7 psi up front, trying to soften out a bunch of the blows, but I think in the end that might have been a little bit too much, or too little air pressure, and I think the tire might have folded under over it. One of the net side effects of having the flat tire and having the handlebars kind of ripped out of your hands at inopportune times going through rock gardens, you end up crashing a lot more. I went down quite a few times in the second half of that first lap. Just wasn't able to control the bike very well. You'll see as the video goes on, it's right around the 6-minute mark is when my tire goes flat, and from that point forward I'm riding on a flat. But you'll start to see that the bike makes jerky movements, wasn't braking properly, and you feel quite a lot of impact through the handlebars. There's nothing cushioning except for your suspension. It's surprising how much effect the front tire has on cushioning or breaking out some of the more significant blows, and just even affecting the steering, and then how having your tire spread out or flat out, that it just grips everything until it just doesn't, and then folds under, and it just causes very unpredictable handling. Net result of this is that I had several crashes, went down pretty hard a couple of times, and ultimately I ended up putting a hole in the side of my clutch cover, drove the brake through it, and started to leak out oil from the engine. Thankfully, the bike that I'm on is pretty robust, and we were able to make it to the end of the race, but it turned out that the weekend was relatively hard on the bike. I still had a great time. Every one of these events, every year, the attrition rate is either right at 50% or up to about 60% one of the years that I did it, of the people that just don't finish the event. So given that this is my 4th try at it, I've completed 3, and now it was my turn to be part of the 50%. I'm hoping my best that next year won't be that way. I'm not really, discouraged that we were unable to finish it. It's always a moment of pride when you do pull through that finish line. I was upset that I wasn't able to do that, but ultimately that's part of racing. You're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, and I did everything I could, pushed it all the way to the 50-mile mark. With, as it turned out, by the time I got there, I had 5 holes in my front tire and a hole in the side of my engine. So I'm proud that I was able to get there, but ultimately a little bit disappointed that I wasn't able to make it to the finish this year and get the T-shirt. So the net positive of this is that because I knew I wasn't going to be finishing the event, that I was only going to push through to the 50-mile mark, I was able to participate a little bit more in the race, helping some guys up, and had some interesting opportunities there, and I've included a couple of videos from that. It's worth sticking around for. Normally in a race you don't really stop and help out all that much unless it's something pretty catastrophic you think you can do, that somebody's going to be hurt if you're not there helping them or hurt worse. So it was nice to be able to help out a little bit, maybe act as a little bit of a sweeper as you're going, and I was able to lift a couple of bikes, and later on in the video here I was able to help somebody with some fuel, help them get to the finish as best they could. So if I can't finish, then maybe you can help somebody else make it that hasn't been able to do it yet. So it was a good opportunity for that.
Mile-wise. About 29. I'm fine, I got a flat. Same deal. Been riding it for the last 10 miles like that.
I'm not gonna lie, when I asked that guy that question about where we were, I thought we were a whole world further than we were. It was pretty discouraging to hear that after I'd been riding with that flat for about 10 miles, that I still was just barely over the halfway mark of the lap. I was considering exiting at that point, but we decided to still keep going.
All right. I need my bike off me. Woo, that was a good one. Thank you. No worries.
I love that guy's attitude. It personifies so much of what goes on in these weekends, and the attitude of the riders. We're all out there having a good time, but ultimately everybody's there to finish, but you have to have a little bit of that nut bar attitude of no matter what happens, crashing is exciting. It's always good for a laugh as long as nobody gets hurt all that seriously, and everybody's going to end up underneath the bike eventually, and somebody's going to have to lift off their head or their leg, and it's just, you might as well laugh at it because there's not much else you can do about it. At a bit of an odd level, that's just one of those circumstances where if you could take this sport and make it safe, it wouldn't be fun anymore. We try to mitigate the risks and manage it as best we can, but quite honestly, we all just enjoy the thrill of it. It's fun bouncing through rocks, it's fun getting kicked all around and going as fast as you can for as long as you can. It's an opportunity everybody should take. Well, thanks for joining me for this event. As unfortunate as it was fun to participate in and fun to make the video for. There's a little bit of follow-up here where there's some rider ingenuity that's worth sticking around for. Always help out the other riders.
All good? Yes. 4-stroke? Yeah. If we just get you below me.
I don't know how to do that.
I'll put my rear over there. Disconnect my fuel line. If you try to line your fuel tank up with mine, right here. Take as much as you need. I got 13 liters, so.
On you?
Yeah, I got a rally tank on it.